The moment right before you blow your account does not feel like danger. It feels like the best you have ever traded. That is the warning Mark Douglas spent years trying to make traders understand, and it is the reason so many of them never see the catastrophe coming, because they are not looking for it. You do not look for danger when everything feels like it is finally working. But I need you to listen to what I am about to describe, because if you have ever blown an account, or if you are about to, the pattern I am going to lay out will be so familiar it will make you uncomfortable. Every account blowup follows the exact same sequence. Not roughly the same, the exact same. And the cruelest part is that the sequence begins with something that feels indistinguishable from genuine skill. This is also why tracking your emotional states is not optional. It is the only early warning system that actually works. When your P and L is going up, everything feels right. The only thing that can reveal the psychological cracks forming underneath is structured self-observation, something like the speculator's journal, where your emotional patterns are laid out in data rather than left to memory and gut feeling. Link is in the description. But let me describe this sequence for you, because once you see it, you will never be able to unsee it. It starts with a winning streak. Maybe 3 trades in a row, maybe 5, maybe 10. Your system is working, your entries are clean, your exits are timed well. Every trade seems to confirm what you have been wanting to believe, that you have figured this out, that you are different from other traders, that you understand the market. And in those moments, something subtle and dangerous happens. Your confidence does not just increase, it transforms. It goes from, I have an edge and I am executing my process, to, I know what the market is going to do. Those two things sound similar. They are not. The first is grounded in probability, the second is a delusion, and the transition happens so smoothly that you never notice it. Mark Douglas spent decades pointing out that this transition from probabilistic confidence to certainty is the first domino in every catastrophic trading failure. And the reason it is so hard to catch is that it feels like progress. It feels like you are leveling up. In reality, you are walking to the edge of a cliff while staring at the sky. Here is what happens next. Let me see if this sounds familiar. You start adjusting your position size. Not dramatically, just a little more. Because the trades are working, and risking 1% now seems overly cautious. You were being conservative when you did not know if your approach worked, but now you know. So 2% feels reasonable, maybe 3% on the really clean setups. You are not being reckless, you tell yourself. You are being strategic. You are capitalizing on your hot streak. Then you start skipping parts of your process. The pre-trade checklist takes too long. You can see the setup forming. Why waste time writing it down? Your journal entries get shorter. Then they stop altogether. The market is moving and you need to act. Process feels like a leash, and you are too good for a leash right now. Then you start taking trades that are not in your plan. You see something that looks right. It is not one of your setups, but your intuition is sharp. You trust yourself. You trust the feeling. After all, you have been right all week. Why would this be any different? And at this point, you are no longer trading your system. You are trading your ego. But you do not know it, because your ego sounds exactly like confidence. Now, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, I would never let it go that far. But you already have. If you have ever blown an account, you went through some version of this exact sequence. And if you have not blown an account yet, I am telling you now you will, unless you learn to recognize these warning signs for what they are. Here is what most traders get wrong about account blowups. They think the catastrophe is the moment they hit zero, the big loss, the trade that wiped them out. It is not. The catastrophe is the winning streak that preceded it. The blowup was set in motion days or weeks before the final trade. It was set in motion the moment you stopped treating the market as uncertain and started treating it as something you could predict. Mark Douglas built his philosophy on a principle that most traders understand intellectually and almost none internalize emotionally. Every moment in the market is unique. No pattern repeats identically. No streak guarantees the next outcome. The market has no memory of your last 5 wins, and your last 5 wins have no predictive power over your next trade. The reframe is this. Winning streaks are not evidence that you have mastered the market. They are evidence that your system is performing within its expected parameters. A 60% win rate system will regularly produce 5, 6, 7 wins in a row. That is not mastery. That is mathematics. And the moment you interpret statistics as skill, the moment you believe the streak is about you rather than about probabilities, you have stepped onto the path toward destruction. But there is something even more dangerous than the streak itself. Let me explain what happens when the streak breaks. Let me describe the most dangerous moment in any trader's career. It is not their first loss. It is their first loss after a winning streak. Because that loss does not feel like a normal loss. It feels like a betrayal. You were right 5 times in a row, and now you are wrong, and your brain cannot reconcile those two things. Everything inside you rebels against the loss. Not because the loss is large, it might be tiny, but because it contradicts the story you have been telling yourself. The story that says, you know what the market will do, and here is what happens in that moment. Instead of accepting the loss and moving on, which is what your process demands, you reject it. You tell yourself it was a fluke, an anomaly. The market is wrong, not you. And from that rejection, everything accelerates. The next trade is a revenge trade. It is not taken because your system generated a signal. It is taken because you need to prove the loss wrong. And it is almost always taken with larger size, because the urgency to recover matches the urgency of the wounded ego. And if that trade also loses, the spiral begins in earnest. Now, you are not thinking about probabilities. You are not thinking about your system. You are thinking about getting back to where you were 30 minutes ago. You are in full emotional survival mode. And from that state, every decision you make will be wrong. Not because you lack knowledge, but because the part of your brain capable of using knowledge has been shut down by emotion. This is the anatomy of every account blow-up that has ever happened. Not a single bad trade. A cascade of psychological dominoes, each one triggered by the one before it, each one escalating the stakes, each one narrowing your field of vision until you can see nothing except the loss you are trying to erase. Now let me give you the tools to interrupt this cascade before it destroys you. Let me talk about the first warning sign and what to do about it. The confidence audit. This is non-negotiable. After any winning streak of 3 or more consecutive trades, you stop. Before you take your next trade, you ask yourself one question. Am I about to take this trade because my system is telling me to, or because I feel like I cannot lose? Be honest. If the answer is the second one, if you feel anything resembling certainty, you skip the trade. You walk away. You come back when the certainty has faded and the humility has returned. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, but what if it is a good setup? Why would I skip a valid trade just because I am feeling confident? And here is the answer. There is a difference between confidence in your process and confidence in your prediction. Confidence in your process sounds like, this is my setup. I have defined my risk. I do not know if it will win, but I know the edge exists over time. Confidence in your prediction sounds like, this is going to work. If your inner voice is making statements about the future with certainty, you are in dangerous territory. The confidence audit takes 10 seconds. And those 10 seconds are the difference between a controlled trading day and the beginning of a spiral. Let me talk about the second warning sign, size creep. This is non-negotiable. Your risk per trade should be fixed, not adjusted based on conviction, not increased after a winning streak, not reduced after a losing streak, fixed, the same percentage, every trade. Here is why. Variable position sizing based on how you feel is not risk management. It is emotional expression disguised as strategy. When you increase size because you are confident, you are encoding your emotional state into your risk. And your emotional state after a winning streak is almost certainly distorted. Think of it this way. A pilot does not fly faster because the last 3 flights were smooth. A surgeon does not cut deeper because the last 3 surgeries went well. Professionals keep their parameters fixed because they understand that past outcomes do not change the fundamental uncertainty of the next event. If you catch yourself wanting to increase your position size for any reason, that impulse itself is the warning sign. Write it down. Note the date, the emotional state, and the number of consecutive wins preceding it. Over time, you will see the pattern clearly, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let me talk about the third warning sign, process abandonment. This is non-negotiable. Every trade gets the full checklist, every trade gets journaled, every trade gets the pre-trade commitment, the risk calculation, and the post-trade review, no exceptions. Not even when you are winning, especially when you are winning. Here is the psychology. Process feels unnecessary during winning streaks because the results seem to confirm that you do not need it. But the process is not there for when things go right. The process is there for when things go wrong. It is your infrastructure, your guardrail. And if you dismantle it during good times, it will not be there when bad times arrive. And bad times always arrive. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, my process slows me down. I miss trades. And I want to tell you something with absolute clarity. Every trade you miss because you were following your process is a trade you should have missed. If the setup disappears while you are filling out your checklist, it was not your setup. Your setups wait for you. They include the time it takes to prepare. If you are rushing through preparation to catch a move, you are gambling, not trading. Let me talk about the fourth warning sign and the one that matters most. The first loss after a winning streak. This is the moment of truth. This is where the cascade either begins or is interrupted. And I want to give you an exact protocol for handling it. When you take your first loss after 3 or more consecutive wins, you do the following. You close your platform, not minimize it, close it. You step away for a minimum of 1 hour. During that hour, you write in your journal, not your P&L journal, your emotional journal. You answer 3 questions. Question 1, do I feel the urge to trade right now? Be honest. Question 2, if I had been losing all week, would I take the next trade that is forming? Question 3, is my desire to trade right now about my system or about recovering this loss? If the answer to question 1 is yes, you are not ready to trade. If the answer to question 2 is no, you are not seeing clearly. If the answer to question 3 is about recovery, you are already in the danger zone. This is exactly the kind of turning point that remains invisible without deliberate self-tracking. And this is where something like the speculator's journal earns its value not as a logbook, but as a mirror that shows you what you are actually feeling versus what you think you are feeling. Link is in the description. But the protocol works regardless. The act of writing forces you to confront what your emotions are doing, and that confrontation is often enough to break the spell. You only return to trading when all 3 answers point to genuine process-driven readiness. Not when you feel better, not when you see a setup you want to take. Only when the emotional charge of the loss has fully dissipated and your focus has returned to process, not outcomes. Let me talk about the 5th and final warning sign, the revenge trade. If you get to this point, you have already missed the earlier warnings, but it is not too late. A revenge trade has specific characteristics. It is taken within minutes of a loss. It is often in the same instrument, in the opposite direction. The position size is larger than normal, and the emotional state behind it is not analytical, it is aggressive. You are not trying to make a good trade. You are trying to punish the market for being wrong, or to prove to yourself that you are still right. The moment you recognize a revenge trade, and if you are honest with yourself, you always know you have one job. Cancel the trade. Close the platform. You are done for the day. Not for an hour, for the day. This is not punishment. This is protection. A revenge trade is the clearest signal your brain can give you that your emotional state has compromised your judgment beyond repair for that session. No amount of waiting, breathing, or self-talk will fix it today. Tomorrow you will be clear. Today you are a danger to yourself. Let me bring this together. Every account blow-up follows the same 5 stages. A winning streak that creates false certainty, size creep driven by ego, process abandonment driven by impatience, the first loss after the streak, which triggers emotional refusal, and the revenge trade, which triggers the cascade. You now know what to look for, and more importantly, you know what to do at each stage. After 3 consecutive wins, perform the confidence audit. Ask yourself whether you are trading, process, or prediction. Keep your risk fixed. The same percentage, every trade, regardless of conviction or recent results. Maintain your full process on every trade, especially when you are winning. The process is not a leash, it is a lifeline. After your first loss following a winning streak, close the platform. Step away for an hour. Answer the 3 questions. Return only when the emotional charge is gone. If you catch yourself even considering a revenge trade, you are done for the day. No negotiation. These are not suggestions. These are the protocols that separate traders who survive from traders who fund their 4th account and wonder why nothing changes. 6 months from now, If you follow these, something will be different about you. You will notice the winning streak starting and you will feel not excitement, but alertness. You will notice the impulse to increase your size and you will smile because you know exactly what that impulse is and exactly where it leads. You will take your first loss after a streak and feel nothing but mild curiosity. And the revenge trade will become something you remember, not something you do. That is what mastery looks like. Not the absence of danger, but the ability to see it coming and step aside. Mark Douglas warned traders about this pattern for his entire career. He understood that the market's greatest threat is not volatility or bad news or unpredictable events. The greatest threat is the trader's own psychology, specifically the tendency to confuse a string of random favorable outcomes with personal skill and then to bet everything on that confusion. His warning was simple, and I will leave you with it in the plainest terms I can. The moment trading feels easy, you are in the most danger you have ever been in. Stay alert, stay humble, stay in the process. That is how you survive.